Resolved. Affirmative action will be outlawed by 2015. Mr. Hall recalls he was immediately stereotyped and put in a box because he was African American, and that made it harder for him to perform in classes. He said, "I believed all blacks were either there as athletes or through minority recruitment program and not actually belong there." He later dropped out his freshman year because shaken from the experience. Affirmative action is unfair. African Americans are more likely to get into colleges purely because of their race and not test scores, which is unfair to others who have higher test scores. Richard Sander and Taylor Stewart found out that African Americans and Hispanics get an equivalent of a 100-point boost on an SAT and often much more. People not helped by affirmative action are being pushed away because of race. Affirmative action is racist. It denies people based on race. Wall Street Journal stated, like most universities, Texas offers no assistance to Asian Americans. It prefers Hispanics and blacks over Caucasians and other minorities. Wasn't affirmative action supposed to make everyone equal? Supreme Court Richard versus Croson, affirmative action may in fact promote notions of racial inferiority. This was supposed to make minorities feel better, not inferior. Affirmative action has many negative effects. Richard Sander stated, when students get large preferences for colleges, they often drop out, have poor grades, low self-esteem, and even segregated themselves off campus. Mr. Hall's experience was just one of many negative stories. Stated by Wall Street Journal, while African Americans and Hispanics are much more likely than Caucasians to aspire to be a scientist, they are more likely to drop out or do poorly in classes.
My opponent has said that because of affirmative action, you get more education because of your race. And because of your race, you get more opportunities to go into college. I disagree. Because of affirmative action, it keeps them equal from the hierarchy of whites and blacks. Also, the Texas top 10 states that top 10% of any school gets you into college. It doesn't matter of your race. It matters of your education. Affirmative action would hurt minority groups if it were to be banned. Princeton University study concurred. Ending affirmative action would lead to a short drop in minorities attending to top colleges. Therefore, affirmative action should be not banned.
It should be kept because it keeps fair equality, it's important for schooling, and it's well for occupations, which is good because it offers new opportunities to people that don't have jobs or need new ones. Equality is a very important part of jobs, and is therefore one immediate reason that we as Americans need to keep affirmative action. It can help when there are different parts in a job that are crucial for differences in their foundation. One example, the affirmative action, it just helps with differenciness, is presidency. Without women, it wouldn't be as simple to understand what needs to be done to take care of families as if it was only men that were in helping with the job. If the presidents aren't married, how are they going to understand what needs to be done to take care of families in America? Simply put, they wouldn't. They need just as much information from themselves as from women to meet the needs of others. Affirmative action also helps make schools more diverse. Too often, people mistake affirmative action with educational preferences for unqualified students, as stated by NC State University. It's important for education because of differences in religion, race, and income. If there are people out there that need jobs, then they might actually have a chance of getting them. Occupations are another reason that affirmative action needs to be kept. Despite what our opponent may say, without it, there would be many job losses and many fewer openings for jobs, as there wouldn't be as equal of a system to support them. These topical ideas are just barely covering the basis of the whole system that we know of as affirmative action.
My opponent says that the top 10 people get into colleges no matter what. But I disagree, because the first thing colleges who have affirmative action look at is race. It is posted on the front of every single person's folder. So clearly it's the first thing they look at. Therefore, even though they say that the top 10 people get into college, this is not true. My opponents have also said that affirmative action makes colleges more diverse, but I disagree, because as my teammate stated earlier, people who are put into colleges through affirmative action have usually self-segregate themselves, so it doesn't even matter that they're there because they're not talking to people and sharing their opinions. Therefore, even though it may make it more diverse, it doesn't even matter.
My opponents have said that affirmative action makes it equal. They also said that the race doesn't matter and it's all based on their education. But I disagree, because affirmative action is racist in itself, and it's racist in itself. Therefore, affirmative action should be outlawed. My teammates and I have said that affirmative action is not doing what it was made to do. Schools have been giving people of different races a helping hand when it comes to getting into colleges. This makes it hard for other more qualified applicants to get into the school of their dreams. Affirmative action is also proven to be racist in itself. It is supposed to protect all races from being discriminated against, but it favors two races and leaves the rest in the dust. Many students also feel out of place or not good enough when they get into schools because of their race. This causes many dropouts and overall makes the nation look worse. I would also like to point out that affirmative action is hurting more than helping and is not needed anymore. According to a professor at the University of Michigan Law School, ethnic and racial diversity has little to no effect on the quality and learning of a classroom. Douglas A. Kahn once said, "Racial diversity has virtually no effect on educational quality and isn't the real rationale for the policy." This means we are stressing over a law that does nothing for us and is actually hurting us. In fact, at the University of California, after the state terminated the law, the percentage of African Americans attending the school increased, and after a few years, Hispanic enrollment was 100% higher. This proves affirmative action does nothing for the good of its targeted audience. I would like to ask, what is the true definition of affirmative action? There are many definitions that I have heard, but I have yet to hear the official meaning until now. According to dictionary.com, affirmative action is positive discrimination, a policy or program designed to counter-discriminate against minority groups and women in areas such as employment and education. If this is true, and it is really supposed to be positive, why are people still being hurt and discriminated against in the process? This is not okay, nor is it right. People should not be getting hurt because of a policy that is no longer needed. Everyone should start thinking how much this will impact the future generations of America. Do you really want your kids to miss out on huge opportunities because of race, because of a requirement? How does it make you feel that one day they might not even be considered for a school or job, not because of their skill level, but because of their race or gender?
My opponents may say minority groups only get into colleges because they have to due to affirmative action. But I disagree, because though this may be in very few cases, affirmative action is made to level the playing field and so that kids that are biased against can actually get into colleges. Therefore, affirmative action doesn't just help you because of your race. My teammates and I have said affirmative action is important and must continue to be used. Affirmative action was made to allow women and minority groups equal opportunity with white males, get into schools and workplaces. Affirmative action provides equal opportunity for American minorities. It levels the playing field for minority groups, as stated by Michigan.gov. Also, non-white American students can get into schools they're qualified for, but normally wouldn't get into. Tour, an author whose father was alive during heavily segregated times, got better chances to get a better job and education than his father because of affirmative action. It provides more opportunity for students to have a better and more improved lifestyle, as well as workplaces. Affirmative action helps people get jobs so that they can provide for themselves and their families. We will also state, most people do not know they are biased. People, psychologists included, barely know their own minds. In our research, we discovered an interview with Mazar and Beneji, and she stated, "I was quite certain that if I took the white-black test to associate black and white with good and bad, I'd associate black with good. So when I took the test, it was stunning for me to discover my hands were literally frozen when I had to associate black with good. It's like I couldn't find the keys." Most people use an implicit mental process, meaning they go through an unconscious choice without their own awareness. We know that without affirmative action, many diverse things will return to its former dominant groups. Though some believe America is past its time of segregation and racism, many can still not handle that here in America, we're not all the same skin color or gender. Well, that doesn't make me any different from you or him.
Okay, my opponent has stated that affirmative action is not doing what it's made to do. I disagree. Affirmative action gives minorities a chance to get a job at an equal height of white, a chance to get the proper education that they deserve, and a chance to live a life in an improved lifestyle. My opponent has also stated that it only favors two races. But I also disagree. Because affirmative action is made for all minorities, no matter what the kind or type. Part of affirmative action is Diversity is desirable if left to chance. Part of the education process is learning to interact with other races and nationalities.
Caitlin Early, Tori Houseway to the office.
Because many students live very segregated lives up until the time they start college.
Allison Keller, Trey Woodkey, and Brody Moore to the office, please.
Where opinions and nationalities are based on stereotypes. Interaction allows students to learn that persons of the opposite races are people too, more or less just like themselves. The movie Remember the Titans, based on a true story, is an excellent illustration of this. In the beginning, the football players portrayed in the movie are heavily segregated against and antagonistic to the other races. The coach forces them to room with a player of the opposite race, color, as well as to learn some essential facts about each other. To make a long story short, they become lifelong friends and accomplish an undefeated season. This shows that affirmative action completes and helps the minority groups in it just helps minority groups.
My opponent says that affirmative action is needed for minorities to get into colleges, but I disagree because at the University of California, after California got rid of affirmative action, they had an increase in African Americans there, and it was almost 100% higher for Hispanics. Therefore, even though they didn't have affirmative action, they still had more minorities than they did before.
Caitlin Early to the office.
My opponent also said that people are still racist now. And while that's true, affirmative action isn't changing that. People are going to be racist whether you go to the same school with them or not. Also, it doesn't get rid of discrimination. As Albert Einstein once said, we can't solve our problems using the same thinking that got us there. So why are we trying to fight discrimination by discriminating against people? That doesn't make sense to me. Why would you discriminate against people in order to get rid of discrimination?